morning, everybody. Chief Bob Cormier, and been a police officer for about 39 years now, and served in Massachusetts in the 80s, worked for LAPD all through the 90s, and was the police chief in Tilton for 14 years, and presently interim chief in Hartford, Vermont. I was excited to help Charlie with this project and see if I can help you folks be a little bit safer out there with your, real estate scheduled appointments and open houses. In particular, when I started to do some research and look into some of the inherent dangers for realtors during these open houses, I said to Charlie, there's definitely a lot of talking points and a lot of safety issues out there for you guys, during your showing. So I guess, Charlie, if you want to just start to go through the slides, I can help you along.
Terrific. So the next slide was crimes of opportunity. 99% of survival is with planning in mind.
Yep. And so we talked about that as we put this together. In our line of work, we say that, to be as safe as possible, pre-planning your calls, having contingency plans when you get there, and safety plans is so important. It's 90% of your safety is all in the pre-planning. And we talked about some of the inherent dangers of open houses and the locations of open houses, such as a house that's maybe set back in the woods on a dirt road, a house that isn't near any other houses in the neighborhood. If you get an uneasy feeling about a location, your hunch is probably accurate, and those are the houses that we want you to put the most effort into thinking about. What would I do if I needed to get out of here quickly? Putting in some basic safety steps with each one of these showings, so that you don't find yourself in a room alone with anybody. Asking them to go down the hallway and look at the rooms, and certainly circle back to you if you have any questions, but not following them down the hallway into these rooms, and or a basement or an attic space. And so those are some of the good tactics, I guess, and pieces of advice we would give real estate agents and brokers if they were doing a showing.
And then contingency planning is a big part of avoiding problems. Knowing what you are going to do if something were to happen. Self-defense classes, National Association of Realtor videos. Be aware of what could happen and how you can react to stay safe.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to dovetail on that, Charlie, to be thinking about, with this particular location, how close are the neighbors? Do I have cell phone coverage? If you're in the house and all of a sudden you find yourself in trouble, what if you have no cell phone coverage? Then what are you going to do? Be thinking about those type of contingency plans. I would say if you get a showing and it's in a place that you don't feel comfortable and you don't have cell phone coverage there, or it's weak or spotty, those are the locations that you want to have a second person there with you. And also thinking about, that first showing in the morning or the last one at the end of the day. When we started to look at, some of the instances where agents have found themselves in danger, it was usually that first showing or the last showing of the day. Usually it was, a lone male client. And you could almost see some of the red flags as you started to read into it. And so just be thinking about those things before you, schedule a showing. Obviously, if you can meet them in a public place or meet them in your office, those are preferred methods. Documenting who you're showing and maybe having a second person at the office know who you're meeting that day, what's your calendar. and so that there's someone else that has that information is really important.
So if we go into situational awareness, we think about some of the red flags, like when you're at an open house, let the neighbors know that you will be there. Who knows you are at that open house? When are you expected to return? Who knows? Do you have any protection devices? Panic button applications for the phone? Security applications on your phone? And what is your plan? Do you have a service? Do not be off the grid alone. Do you have someone with you? Location and environment drives planning. Land in rural areas are concerned. Homes located on Class 6 roads. Trust your gut, and your car alarm on your phone button. So you want to go on for that, Bobby? That'd be great.
Sure. Yeah, I think, it's pre-planning and having contingency plans like we talked about. All of you nowadays, most cars have an emergency button or an alarm on their fob. Test that out. Does it work? Will it work from the house? Now 911 has the ability to communicate via text. So if you find yourself in a position where you can't speak to get help, you certainly can text to get help. Charlie talked about nowadays there's so many phone apps for Android and Apple. There's phone apps out there that are panic buttons that you can, download and have on your phone in an emergency. Some of the stuff he talked about is certainly a real concern in New Hampshire. Not every town and not every part of every town has cell coverage or good cell coverage. And certainly you want to be aware of that if you're out there at an open house. And also, having an exit plan. If you're in a house and you're giving someone a tour, knowing where all the exits are and keeping, that exit door on one end of you and the client on the other is important, so that if all of a sudden you have to make a break and get to an exit, you can. And again, that just reemphasizes, why we don't advocate following people into bedrooms, attic spaces, or basements. And so just having good common sense safety plans in advance, thinking about it, and making sure that people know where you are when you're doing these showings. Maybe communicating with a neighbor, letting them know, introducing yourself to them, and kind of getting a feel on them. Are they someone that if you were in trouble or in an emergency, you could reach out to them or yell out to them for help is important too. I know in our busy day-to-day lives, we kind of get wrapped up in the moment, and I'm sure you guys are busy as anything right now with the climate. And so we just want you to, make sure you make safety first as part of your day during these showings.
Then we talk a little bit about pre-planned meetings. So always meet new clients at the office or in a neutral location. Share your schedule with a colleague, assistant, or a family member. Communicate safety concerns on your listings. Do not overshare about your personal life. Check your cell phone battery and signal before heading to an appointment. Direct clients to walk in front of you when touring a property, and never go into attic, crawl spaces, or garages where you could be trapped. And then for open houses, the times of greatest concern, ensure your phone is charged, drive around the area, control the flow by keeping the garage door and back doors closed, aware of people entering, get acquainted with the neighbors, and park the car on the road so you're not blocked in. Bobby, did you have anything else to share on that?
No, just, we're coming into that time of year where daylight is going to start getting shorter each day. It's going to be getting darker earlier. And just keep that in mind with open houses. You don't want to find yourself, doing that last showing of the day and leaving in the dark, or having that showing be in the dark. Obviously, that increases, the risk of danger to agents out there.
And then we talk about, removing personal items during the showings and to lock items up so that could be easy to pocket, like a laptop or jewelry.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't want to be, a person of opportunity for someone who's maybe not looking to attack you, but maybe looking to rob you. And so, we've seen instances where some of the agents in some of the bigger cities have advocated, taking off that expensive jewelry and storing it before you go do the showing, making sure that, maybe you lock your purse in the trunk or something like that. Just taking those extra steps to make sure you don't become a victim of robbery either.
Then the next slide is on the 911 text, the ability to send a text by 911 and how people are using that for their safety.
Yep, that's something we just brought on board this year. We're looking to get 911 texting for a while now, and finally the 911 Emergency Center has that on board. And certainly it works, and it can be critical in an emergency where you can't talk to let people know you need help. We wanted to give people the ability to send a text message. Obviously, if you dial 911 from your phone, even if you can't talk, 911 is going to geolocate your phone, and we have to respond at all times. And so even if you said over your cell phone, I'm all set, I don't need help, we still have to come anyway. So just know that if for some reason you can't text, but you can maybe dial 911, just dial 911 and put your phone in your pocket and leave that open line. 911 is going to continuously try to geolocate where you're at and have first responders head towards that location.
And then if you were to be followed, what are some of the things you do when if you think you're being followed? So, don't accelerate and take off. Drive to a public location and drive home only when you feel completely secure. So if you want to expand on that a little bit, Bobby.
Sure, absolutely. And that isn't just for, real estate agents. That's really for everybody. We don't advocate communicating with them or engaging them in any way, shape, or form. Just lock your doors, head to a public place and dial 911 safely if you can en route. If not, when you get there, and just remain in your car. But try to be in a place where there's a lot of people around, where it's well lit, and hopefully, if you dial 911, we can get there quickly. But yeah, definitely, you don't want to have them put you in a position where you're in a dark parking lot by yourself or somewhere where there's no one around, and avoid that at all costs.
And then we got a slide about showing property at night.
Yeah, absolutely. I think everyone knows that the risk of danger increases at night. And, we don't want to have your agents walking out to their cars in the dark after a showing, especially if, that person is someone that we sense as a danger in that last showing. If your instincts tell you there's something up about this person that I just showed the house to, and your instincts make you feel uneasy around them, you don't want to be walking out to your car at night after that last showing. And so if you do feel something like that and you don't feel safe, call us and we'll respond out to the address and be there when you head out to your car. Say, look, I just showed a house. It's dark. I really don't feel safe walking out to my car. Could you have an officer respond? And if they're not tied up, they will. And that goes for any time of the day. If for some reason you don't feel easy with a particular showing or something just doesn't feel right, don't hesitate to call us and have us respond out. It doesn't have to be an actual emergency for us to respond for help.
Fantastic. So I just wanted to quickly introduce the Meredith Village Savings Bank's sales team. We've got Laurie Boren, Denise Hubbard, Nancy Coughlin, Marcy Dembeck, Eric Patel, Sue Ross, and our newest loan officer, Bonnie Lighton, down in Portsmouth. And I'll have Jenny introduce her team.
Hi, I'm Jenny Williams, the sales manager for Merrimack County Savings Bank, and I have Jake Potter and Pam Starr, along with Matt Thomas, Mary Tillotson, and our newest loan officer who's not on here, and her name is Shannon Ketchum, and she covers our Hooksett office.
And then at our Savings Bank of Walpole office, we've got Christine Greenwood Smart, Sarah Rosley, Samantha Monsoon. And now we just wanted to open it up for questions, or if anybody has any stories to share about things that they've experienced. I think this is the most interesting part of the presentation. I know I used to own a restaurant in a past career, and at the end of the night when we closed at 2 a.m, we used to have the police take us to the night deposit box every night, because walking in with a bag of money at 2 a.m. was a prime opportunity. So by having the police drive us to the night deposit box, we never got robbed. It was a really positive thing. And then they'd come in for coffee at the end of the night, and just by their presence being there and then driving us to the bank, anybody who was thinking about robbing us decided that wasn't probably the easiest one to do. There had to be an easier way to do it. So, like they say, if you're running away from the bear, you don't have to be the fastest. You have to be faster than the slowest, you know? So anybody have any questions that they want to ask or experiences? Or Bobby, you got anything else you want to share?
Hey, Charlie,
no, the other thing. Oh, go ahead.
This is Denise Hubbard. I just have a quick question. Obviously, we've all heard stories of the bad guys who dress as a police officer or even have an automobile that looks like a police car and stop you. What is the best way or the easiest, safest way for everyone involved to verify it's actually a police officer stopping you? How should that be handled? I've always wondered that.
Sure, Denise, that's a great question. And actually it comes up quite a bit, especially with a lot of unmarked cars out there. What we tell folks is to dial 911 and say, this is Denise Hubbard. I'm stopped on, Route 101 westbound by an unmarked car. It's a silver car. I'm not 100% sure that it's an actual police officer. Is there any way you can confirm for me that I'm actually being stopped by a police officer and not an imposter? And dispatch will help you with that. They can, certainly radio out there, or they may already know that car stop's happening. If dispatch comes back to you and says, we don't have anyone making a car stop on 101 westbound right now, they will start officers out to that direction to try and, detain and find out who actually is pulling you over. And so I would say to dial 911 in those instances and try and confirm that you're being stopped by an actual police officer.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Charlie, the other thing I wanted to mention too is, a big part of our world is information sharing, and intelligence sharing. And I really feel like, with suspicious people and suspicious or incidents that are considered, dangerous for realtors, that they also share that information from office to office as well, especially in New Hampshire. If an agent comes across something that they thought was very strange or something really suspicious that happened to them, in Lincoln, New Hampshire, that could be the start of a pattern of someone that's going to go around and look for a victim of opportunity as far as agents go in another community. So I'd just like to make sure that the officers are talking with each other and that you have some way of communicating with each other if you see or hear something like that. And certainly you can reach out to us and we can help you make those connections. And we can also, take a look at what happened and see if we can help determine, was that an actual suspect or suspicious person? Is this maybe someone that was going around doing something in Maine where they were trying to, assault or injure an agent over in Maine, and now they're in New Hampshire? We can make those law enforcement contacts from state to state. So I just think communication is key between the different real estate offices and law enforcement. If you guys hear or see anything out there, let us know, and certainly we can communicate those things back to you too.
Awesome. I mean, that's a terrific idea, Bobby. I mean, we all work together for the safety. And then, another point I wanted to make is safety is not just from crime, you know, the shoes that you wear, the, you know, icy situations. If the place that you're showing doesn't have power, you know, you may not get attacked, but you know, you could trip on something that was in the hallway when the house had no power, and you went there at 4:30 and the sun just went down. So, you know, safety is all kinds of things. You know, texting while you're driving, talking on the phone. You know, you're driving back and somebody calls you. You're like, I got to get that call. It's the client. I want this deal. I want to close it. I want to get the contract today. You know, it's all elements of safety are really important to think of. And if you just have a little bit of that in your mind as you go through your day, then you can prevent some accidents to yourself personally, and you can prevent some crime and have a better day than if you don't think about it every now and then. It's certainly not something we want to think about or stress about, but if we have a little bit of preparation, then we're in a better place down the road if anything should ever happen.
I have a question, Bobby, if I can ask. For like a self-defense course, are those easy to find, and would you recommend something like that?
So usually if you call your local police department, they already know who's offering them. And some departments have in-house instructors. I know we had 3 at Tilton that we could offer up to the community to do self-defense classes. And so depending on where you live and where your office is, I would reach out to your local police department and ask them if they have anyone or if any departments in the area do. And usually we do. And they're really good classes. We can do them at a community center or at a school or wherever the venue is. And it's something that we like to do for sure. So great question, Jenny.
Yeah, thanks, Bobby.
And the other thing I wanted to mention too, you know, we were talking about some of the houses you might be showing or these second homes in the middle of nowhere, and maybe there is or isn't cell coverage. It never hurts if you have an open house in one of those locations to call the local police department and say, you know, I'm just kind of doing this as a safety piece. I'd like to let you know that, you know, I have an open house down the end of a Class 6 road today with no cell coverage from, you know, 9 o'clock to 4 o'clock. And I just want to let you guys know that I'm going to be out there and I'm going to be alone and just make you aware of that. If there's an officer on the road that could, you know, swing through there during the day, that would be great. But just to get it on our radar screen isn't a bad thing. And we like to get those calls. So just something to think about when you're setting up some of these open houses.
That's great.
Amy, I had seen a video online recently that I thought kind of played in nicely to this. It was about safety when you're traveling, particularly if you're traveling alone, but it would relate, you know, kind of similarly to this situation that if somebody does start to make you uncomfortable or ask you a lot of personal questions, they're trying to figure out where you might be going or what your next actions are, that it's okay to give a white lie. Maybe in this case, it might be saying, that, you know, oh, my next showing is about to arrive, you know, so that they might expect that someone else is going to be showing up soon if you're not feeling like you're in a safe situation. Just some little things like that to not overshare, and also that it's okay to give a little white lie or make it seem like someone might be following up or checking in with you.
Yep, great point. Especially nowadays, it's so easy for people to search each other on social media and find out so much information about each other. And I'm sure in your business, it's, you know, just as easy as it is ours. And so, you know, sometimes that can be dangerous in the wrong hands. And it's just something to think about and be aware of.
All righty then. So, Bobby, I want to thank you for your time and expertise. Hopefully nobody ever needs this information, but just by using it every day, I think we'll be in a better place than we are without it. So thank you so much for your time and your expertise. It was a terrific help. Any other questions? Otherwise, I'll motion to adjourn. Thank you all for attending. We appreciate it.